Hello and welcome. This video is going to be about some basic functions in Excel. So we're going to start talking about sum, average, and count, and then maybe move on to some statistics stuff to add on. So jumping into that sum, count, average. These are kind of our first videos on how to do these functions in Excel that operate on multiple cells and kind of give an outcome that way. And so here it should already have for these sections, we should already have an average at the bottom, we have a sum at the bottom, and we have a count at the bottom. And we'll see how to use them in the next couple examples. But one thing to know is that they kind of operate on this chunk of cells and they update as those cells change. And so this example is asking you to delete the highlighted sections and see, like our average is 56.5. If I delete 70, it goes down 55 because 70 was above that. If I delete this 21, it goes back up to 59. And it's just taking the average of the remaining numbers there. And so similarly, the sum is 469. If I delete that, it just went down by 41. If I delete that, it goes down more. And our count just counts how many entries we have. So there's 11 entries here. If I delete this one, now there's 10. Delete this one, there's 9. And it just says how many there are with no comment on what's in them. Okay, so how do we do that ourselves? In this example, we're going to just take the average and the sum of each of these blocks of tables. So the way you do that is you type out equals to start doing anything in Excel. And then you just type out average. And then it'll autofill this sort of average function. You're going to need parentheses. And then you can highlight the block of cells that you want to operate on. And that can be kind of anything. You can watch it change as I click around, close the parentheses. Done. We have the average of this whole chunk. Similarly with sum, we can go equals sum, SUM. Again, it autofills, and we can kind of highlight these however we like and get the sum. So yeah, and then count as well. We can do count here, highlight them, and there you go. And I could just type in equals AV, and you can see there's a few options. If I use the arrow keys here, I can go to average and hit tab, and it'll fill it in for me there. It capitalizes it automatically. You don't need to do that, but that's just how Excel will do it. And if you look kind of back at the other ones we've entered, they're going to be all caps to indicate that it's a function. Just finish these up. Sum, this, just highlight them, and equals count. I could do like a Control-Shift arrow keys to get the block. There we go. But what is actually going on here, you might ask, because average can mean different things in different contexts. So in Excel, the definition of average is that it's sum divided by count. So it kind of is recursive using these other functions. But that's the average you might think of, the mean, where you just add up the numbers and divide by how many of them that there are. So you could do an example of that with a grade book, and you can see like some made up names and some made up grades. And in this column, we have sum already taken divided by the count already taken of the grades for each student. And we can show that it's the same as just taking the average, and then I want all the grades coming across here. And there you go, they're the same. And then again, we can remember that it'll autofill. If we drag this down, it'll update. Got them all, and you can see, look, it's taking the average of this row next to me now because Excel knows that's the pattern that we want. So great, those are the same thing. Another use here is that we could do a budget and say, I set at the top here the budget I want to spend on things, and then I track my expenses below, and then what I want to do is add up the sum of those expenses and see how we do. So look at that, 180, great, I'm under budget for groceries, lovely. And I can drag this across, and it'll automatically now take the sum of that column above it and just move that relative cell to the cell. So that's sum, average, and count. If we're gonna skip over the if for now and go into the statistics block, we can add in some more similar functions. So we've already learned average, that's a mean. I'm going to scroll down through a few examples to get around the average if and all the average stuff. Once you know if things in the next video, then you'd be able to do this. And we'll just go down to where we get to median here. So median is going to be another simple little statistics thing. So I can do equals median. Can you just type it out of this? And what is that going to be? 12. So the median of a set of numbers is going to be just kind of the middle of it. So what Excel is doing is taking this set of numbers, putting it in order, smallest to biggest, and then just picking the middle one, and that's the median. And that's another measure, kind of like average, of what's the midpoint of a set of numbers, what's kind of sitting in the middle. If I have some like stuff in there like true or false or some other words instead of just numbers, it will just kind of ignore that. So you can see the true and false didn't affect it. It still just got a number. If we have some strings, these words typed in there instead of true, false, again, it will just ignore that. So it doesn't care. Okay, starting here. So that's how median works kind of on a basic level. There's some more stuff here on adding logic to get rid of like errors and use more if statements, which we'll learn about in a different video. But I just want to introduce quickly the mode is another like interesting thing along with median, mean, average. Equals mode is how I'm going to get that. And the mode is going to give you the number that appears most often. So in this list, everything appears once except for the number 9. And you can see there's 2 9s, so 9 is going to be our mode. So it's just a check of the most common number in there. One thing that you could do is there's a mode.single SNGL and a mode.mult MULT. So mode or mode.single by default will just turn the one most common number. And if there's a tie, it'll just return the lowest one, I think, or just pick one of them. Mode.mult, if there's a tie, it will return all of those numbers that tied. So that could be something maybe you care about if you're going to have a bunch of numbers that appear twice or something. You can see if that happens here. Oops, never spilled. It doesn't know how to handle those strings, I guess. SNGL 10. Okay, so we won't try to do the multiple on this one because it got confused. But your mode.single